Hey class, how's it going? Hope y'all are doing well. What I'm gonna do is where your assignments are dealing with chapter 10 in your book. You're supposed to read chapter 1 or chapter 10, section 1, take the quiz, and then do to read section 2 and take its quiz. So what I did is made my own summary to the sections. I read over them and made a summary. So I'm gonna read kind of the main points that I got out of it. And so that way you can, I still want you to read, but you can also watch this and just get a little refresher and see kind of the most important things that I thought were in your reading. So this one is for section 1. I'll make a different one for section 2. So it's talking about ancient Greece. This whole chapter is about ancient Greece. So right now, modern Greece occupies a large peninsula that sets into the Mediterranean Sea. So a peninsula is a land area almost surrounded by water. The largest peninsula is in southern Greece, called Peloponnesian Peninsula. So people entered Greece from the north. Mainland Greece is divided by mountain ranges. So since they're on mountain ranges, it's kind of hard to farm there. So less than 1/4 of the land can be used to grow crops. So that's kind of an issue with Greece, is there's not a lot of farmland. So they had to get their food from other sources. We'll get to that later. So the fertile land in Greece was in the lowland, valleys, and plains. Greek cities never wanted to unite. They were often actually at war with each other. So the citizens didn't make connections really with their Greek cities, but they made connections by the sea from people from North Africa and Asia. Since they were by sea, they had seaports there, they traded. So when they traded, this happens with a lot of trade routes, people spread ideas and beliefs while they're trading, because they trade with people from other societies and civilizations, so they learn different ideas from them. So they have a Mediterranean climate with mild, wet winters and hot, dry summers. Lack of rain made it hard to grow rooted crops. To grow rooted crops, but it was ideal for growing deep-rooted plants. So such as olive trees and grapevines. So the olive trees and the grapevines, they were deep-rooted plants, so they were easier to grow. Olive oil and wine became important trade goods. Those came from the olive trees and the grapevines. So since that was their main thing, they could trade that and trade it for something that they didn't have a lot of. So the Greeks were influenced by the Minoan civilization. They developed on an island called Crete. They were highly advanced. They had their own writing system. But around 1450 BC, the Minoan palaces and towns were mysteriously destroyed, and a lot of people suspect that the Greeks destroyed it. They do not know why, but that's who they believe destroyed it. They might have been, maybe they wanted to take over. They saw that they had some really good things and realized the only way they could take them over is to conquer them and destroy their palaces and to take the things that they wanted. That's not facts, but a lot of times you see that in history. So the Minoans influenced the Mycenaean civilization. Each town was governed by a monarchy, which is a government that is led by a king. They also raided villages, but they eventually grew weak and were destroyed by the Darians, and they're from the north. So the next, it's talking about the Dark Age. Dark Age was from 1100 BC to 750 BC. This is when Greek culture declined, and people started migrating across the Aegean Sea in an area known as Ionia. So Dark Age is from 1100 to 750 BC. It's when Greek culture declined and they started migrating. So then you got the Trojan War. The Mycenaean warriors sailed across the Aegean Sea to attack Troy, which is a city in Asia Minor. The 10-year-long conflict ended when the Greeks tricked the Trojans into accepting a gift of a large wooden horse. Now, what made this They tricked him because with that wooden horse, Greeks were hiding in it, and they crept out and opened the city gates. The Greek army then entered and burned Troy to the ground. So a writer named Homer, he shaped the stories of the Trojan War into a long epic poem called the Iliad. And Iliad is really, really historic. It was very popular in that time. And he also ended up writing the Odyssey, which is also an epic poem. And it describes the hero Odysseus on his journey home after the Trojan War. And these stories here, they shaped Greek culture. Now, Greek communities have begun to organize itself into a polis, which is also known as a city-state. Citizens would meet to make laws and discuss issues affecting the entire community. Populations were usually small. Each city-state had a different kind of government. Some were monarchies, while some citizens were ruling. Some of the communities, some of the city-states, they were ruled by actually the citizens. They weren't a monarchy. Women, slaves, and foreigners could not make decisions. So they were the only three types of people that could not make decisions. So there are three types of inhabitants of the city-states. First one, you had citizens. Citizens could vote. Second, you had women and free foreigners. They could not vote. And then you had slaves who had few rights at all. So those are kind of the main ideas I took from Section 1. I still want you to read that and, take notes over it. And if you all have any questions, just let me know. Hope you're doing well.